I have acknowledged yesterday that we have recovered considerable evidence.
The FBI would not say exactly what led them to 37-year-old Cary Stayner, but charging him for this week's murder of 26-year-old Joey Armstrong has given them a much-needed break in the Yosemite tourist murder case.
We now believe there is a connection between Armstrong's murder and the murders of Carol's son, her daughter, Julie's son, and their family friend, Silvina Peloso, all of whom were last seen the night of February 15th.
Stayner is the first suspect named by the FBI in connection with the grisly murders of the three women. Their brutal deaths shocked the country. Today's news gave their families enormous relief.
It's been a very trying period. I know Yansy is been with the children and has really suffered through this, and this is closure.
Stayner is known to have rented a room above the Cedar Lodge Motel. That's where the three women were last seen alive. Their burnt-out rental car was found a few miles away in Longbarn. But Stayner's never been considered a suspect before.
I've asked myself whether we could have done anything differently that might have prevented the murder of Joey Armstrong. I've struggled with that issue for the last 24 hours and continue to do so. Cary Stayner is successfully prosecuted for the murder of Joey Armstrong, and to see the charges are filed as soon as possible in the deaths of Carol and Julie's son and Silvina Peloso. With Stayner's arrest, we believe that no other person involved in any of these murders is still on the loose. The possible involvement of other individuals, aside from Stayner, in the son Peloso case is still being evaluated. As you know, before today, we have not identified any other individuals by name as potential suspects in the son Peloso case. It had previously expressed a belief that the key players in that case were already in custody on unrelated matters. That was my sincere belief based on the results of intense investigative efforts and the best information available at the time, and was expressed to discourage the dissemination of numerous inflammatory and erroneous media reports regarding what happened to the victims. In light of yesterday's arrest, however, the possible involvement of others in the murders of Carol, Julie, and Silvina is being reevaluated. We have a great deal left to do on this case, therefore I cannot discuss the specific investigative steps that are still underway.
Cary Stayner appeared in federal court after being arrested for the murder of 26-year-old Joey Armstrong. The FBI says Stayner confessed to killing her, and other sources report that he also confessed to killing the three Yosemite sightseers. The FBI questioned him about the case a while ago.
He was not considered a suspect at the time this occurred.
The FBI's Jim Maddock appeared stunned by the developments, although he refused to talk about specific evidence gathered against Stayner. Authorities had already questioned a lot of people about the son Peloso case, including Eugene Rufus Dykes, Michael Mick Larwick, Darrell Stevens, and Billy Joe Strange. But no one has been charged in the case, and only Stayner has been labeled as a suspect by the FBI. Larwick always maintained he had nothing to do with it.
I don't know anything. I wasn't involved in it in any way.
Stayner himself lived in a small apartment right above the Cedar Lodge restaurant. That's where the three victims were last seen having dinner before they disappeared. Ironically, Stevens and Strange worked at the restaurant, although Stevens said he had been laid off and was not around at the time the women disappeared. So far, the FBI has not established any connection between Cary Stayner and any other people who have been questioned.
We do not have an established link between him and other individuals that we are looking at this point.
But Joey Armstrong was decapitated, and the I-Team learned months ago that Julie's son was cut so deeply that she was almost decapitated too. And that has investigators looking at other murders, including those of two women who were found dead about 5 years ago, not far from where Julie was eventually found. One of the victims had her head and hands cut off.
Cary Stayner was not coerced by FBI agents to confess to the Yosemite killings of Carol's son, her daughter Julie, and their Argentina friend Silvina Peloso. Judge Thomas Hastings made that ruling, saying there's not a scintilla of evidence showing otherwise. It means jurors will hear the confessions during Stayner's capital murder trial. also allowed another jaw-dropping jailhouse confession obtained by a former NBC3 reporter. Outside the courthouse, Stayner's attorney stopped short of saying the FBI lied, then admitted the ruling is a blow.
Damaging, I suppose, yes. I'd much rather not have a confession, but the judge has ruled the confession is admissible, and so it's going to be part of all the evidence that the jury's going to get to consider.
The parents of Carol Sund, who drive from Eureka to San Jose for the court hearings, are relieved the confessions are in. Visibly shaken, Francis Carrington says it brought tears to his eyes.
When you think of the horrors that he's caused, the sooner this is over, the better.
Whether you call it legal posturing or total self-confidence, the prosecutor is convinced with the confessions in, this case will move on to a death penalty phase. At San Jose's Hall of Justice, I'm Beth Willon for KCRA 3 Reports.
For the second time in a year, Ray faces his accuser. During several hours of emotional testimony, the Colorado woman told the jury she was held against her will inside Ray's so-called toy box.
Did you at any time ever want to have any kind of sexual activity? No.
Prosecutors showed the jury a videotape of the woman and Ray, a tape they say shows exactly how Ray tied her up, then took advantage of her, even after she told him repeatedly, no.
I just kept telling don't. I told him I wanted to go home. I told him I wanted to go see my husband.
Ray's attorneys tried to portray the woman as a liar, who remembers minute details when convenient, forgets important facts at other times. For example, the woman claims she rode to Ray's house on the back of a motorcycle the day she was allegedly kidnapped.
I remember telling him that.
Okay, but do you remember that actually happening, getting on the bike? No. Okay, so your memory's changed on that point?
The defense believes the woman was a willing participant who came forward only because she needed an alibi to save her marriage. Never told anyone what allegedly happened, not even her mother.
Do you have any memories or flashes of insight or anything?
I did then.
You did then? Did you mention them to her?
No.
Why not?
Because I didn't know if they were true.
The emotion-filled hearing spilled outside the Sierra County Courthouse when EMS crews responded to help one of David Parker Ray's alleged victims who broke down on the witness stand. Court was recessed briefly when the victim, who the court wants to remain anonymous, became hysterical after prosecutors showed her items Ray allegedly used to restrain her. The woman says Ray and Cindy Hendy sexually tortured her for 3 days.
And they put me on the bed, and they tied my legs and my arms to the bed, tied them down to the bed, and they put a metal collar with a padlock and a chain around my neck.
Another alleged victim told similar tales of torture and sexual assault by Ray.
And now it's coming out that torture suspect Cindy Hendy has suffered herself.
Well, a lady was walking on the road up there, and she was all beat up.
Sierra County resident Walt Richmond says last summer he saw who he now says was Cindy Hendy staggering around, apparently abused by someone.
She had big spots, black and blue, or spots all over her face. Looked pretty bad.
Truth or Consequences resident Michelle Lander says Cindy Hendy one time came to her for help after being beaten up, but Lander says Hendy wanted something else besides help.
She asked me to sleep with her, and I told her no, and then at night that David or Ray came over here, she wanted me to go up to David's with her, and I told her no, I have my daughter and my niece.
Landers is now in disbelief after hearing what Hendy and Ray are accused of and wonders what may have happened if she went with the couple.
So I'll probably be in one of those torture racks things.
Christine Yancey wept as she waited for her husband to arrive at the Sierra County Magistrate Courthouse. Dennis Roy Yancey pled not guilty to 5 felony counts, including murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy charges. Christine Yancey claims when her husband was arrested Friday at his workplace, he told her why he allegedly confessed to murder.
Well, after the FBI told him that they had pictures of how he did it, is when he came out and he said that he killed Marie Parker.
Yancey says she and her husband were friends with David Parker Ray, another suspect in the TRC sex torture case. Today, she talked about what her husband says he was doing before he allegedly killed 22-year-old Marie Parker.
They were leaving the Blue Waters. They were supposed to go get drugs for Marie Parker. And Jesse had put a gun to her head and told her and Roy to get in the back of the truck. And that's what they did.
George Padilla says he took the Yanceys in because Christine is 7 months pregnant and had nowhere to go.
I known Roy, like I said, known 5 years, and he'll never do that. He loves kids, you know. He takes my daughter to the park. He's real quiet. He's a quiet person. He's not a killer.
Your husband has been charged with kidnapping and murdering Marie Parker. Did he do it?
Yes.
Christina Yancey says her husband, Dennis Roy Yancey, murdered Marie Parker. She says he did it because suspect David Parker Ray's daughter Jessie forced him to.
Jesse held Marie Parker down. David Ray took pictures and Roy strangled her. The FBI said that they have the rope and everything that he killed her with the DNA on it.
Yancey says that's not the only evidence the FBI has against her husband.
After the FBI told him that they had pictures of how he did it, is when he came out and he said that he killed Marie Parker.
After confessing to the FBI, Yancey went with authorities Saturday to look for Parker's body, but according to his wife, it was not where he thought it was.
He knew where it was, and then David Ray told him a year ago that he moved it, but didn't tell him where.
Yancey spent the afternoon visiting her husband at jail. She says he's scared.
I asked him today, I said, you know what you get for murder, right? He said, no. And I told him the death penalty.
What'd he say?
He started crying.
Jessie Ray quickly proclaimed her innocence while being escorted to jail.
What do you say about your arrest? You involved in anything?
Jessie said she's innocent.
Well, I think just about all of them say they're innocent. We filed charges, and that's why we have the court system.
Jessie Ray and her father, David, are both accused of kidnapping and raping a woman only known as Kelly at David Ray's home in 1996.
Did this involve torture? I mean, specifically?
The allegations would fit that category. Yes, they would.
The recent charges against the father and daughter include 12 counts, ranging from assault with intent to commit a violent felony to criminal sexual penetration and kidnapping.
Media reports say videotapes and photographs have been removed from the site of the investigation, and a court document shows one of the photos is of a restrained victim whose body is being stretched by a torture machine.
We have a course in abnormal psychology, and they show us exhibits and examples and videos of actual situations, certainly many similar in content to what we're seeing here.
Don't they got a heart? You know, what they did to me, really, I haven't really been the same at all.
Angie was the second woman named as a victim in the sex torture case that rocked the small town of Truth or Consequences. She says she knew Cindy Hendy was working on a plea bargain with the district attorney. She even heard what may be involved in the deal.
They're going to give her up to 12 years or up to 52 years.
Angie claims back in February, both David Ray and Hendy held her captive at this home for 5 days, sexually torturing her. She's also heard about other evidence found at Ray's home.
And I heard they found a lot of tapes and stuff. I believe they were probably selling them for money.
Angie says Cindy Hendy shouldn't be given a deal. She says she's just as evil as Ray, even talking about murdering future victims.
She wanted to do the next victim? That's sick. I think she should go as much time as David Ray.